No, I'll record it. But yeah, we'll start with Tracy doing an introduction. OCCU has been a fantastic sponsor for our entire Committed to Community webinar series, which is amazing, and we're super appreciative of that support. And she'll introduce all of you guys, and then I will briefly introduce myself and then turn over to Cindy, and then it'll be you, Amy, and then Lisa, who hasn't joined us yet.
Okay.
And I will enable screen share for all panelists. So you should be set, Cindy, for that.
That's great. Thank you.
And thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're just missing Lisa. Well, it looks like we have a couple people here already, so welcome. We'll wait a couple more minutes for folks to get logged on, but thank you so much for joining us today for our Committed to Community webinar, committed to on-the-job training. Very excited to share this program with everyone today. It's a fantastic resource in our community, so excited to get to share it with broader audience today. So thank you all for being here, and we will get underway here shortly. I think we will give it maybe another minute or two and get everybody logged on and ready to watch this informative webinar today about the on-the-job training program. And thank you all for being here this afternoon. Nice to have beautiful weather, not so hot, sun, but not too warm, which is great. Feels like we're back in the Northwest again.
Gotta enjoy it while we can.
I know, it's true. Yeah.
Gonna get hot again.
Yes. Well, Tracy, do you want to get started and we can kick it off?
Sure. OCCU is proud to be a sponsor of the 2021 Committed to Community webinar series, and especially excited about today's topic of on-the-job training with Workforce Lane. Giving people the resources they need to grow in their career is incredibly important, not just for the position they're going into, but for long-term professional development opportunities throughout the community. It allows people to gain experiences they may not have had up until this point and helps prepare them for more robust development opportunities in the future, whether with the company they're with or companies in the community in the future. We're all in this together, and we know that this kind of training is an essential building block in community sustainability. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about on-the-job training programs with Workforce Lane. I have the pleasure of introducing our presenters today, Lisa Bruckner, Amy Baker, and Cindy Perry. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to share with us your knowledge and expertise in this topic.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here, and thank you so much to OCCU for sponsoring this webinar series. So that's free and available to all. All of these webinars are recorded and available on the Eugene Chamber of Commerce website. So if you want to reference them later, if you learned something amazing today and you want to share it with folks that you know, it will be recorded and up on our site soon. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to share more information about the on-the-job training program with you today. My name is Nicole Desch. I am the business support manager at Onward Eugene, And one of the fantastic things that I get to do as part of my job is share out the on-the-job training program with local businesses and let them know what a great resource this is. I'm excited today to have Cindy Perry with us from Lane Workforce Partnership to talk more about the program. Amy Baker from Threadbare Print House to talk about her experience with using OJT in her business. And hopefully Lisa Bruckner will be joining us shortly with Marshall's LLC and Concentric Sky to talk about the experience that she's had of working in 2 different businesses that have used the OJT program. So I will turn it over to you, Cindy, to talk more about OJT.
Great, thank you. And thanks, everyone. I'm going to share my screen so I can bring up a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully everybody can see that just fine. I really appreciate being here. On-the-job training is a very important pillar of training that we have available to us in Lane County. On-the-job training is actually available throughout the United States. It is primarily funded under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is federal program that we operate within to do a lot of cool and innovative things. What I love about on-the-job training is this is a way to provide training that meets the needs of our business partners, as well as meeting the needs of our job seekers. So we do look at on-the-job training as having the 2 primary customers. At the top of that list, we actually do for this program put our business partners. We need programs like this to help our businesses thrive and grow. We need programs like this to help our businesses reduce the impact that they might face or from economic conditions or things like the potential of having to lay people off, maybe because they don't have the skill or because the business is merging in another direction and their incumbent workforce doesn't have the right trainings. There are a lot of primary uses for on-the-job training. It is a hire first, then train model. So our businesses will hire the individual, then provide the training. We enter into an agreement with that business and the individual to set some training goals and have training for a certain length of time. So the real benefits to business is during a tight labor market, sometimes it's really difficult to find the people that you need, that have the skills that you need. And by utilizing a tool like on-the-job training, you can hire someone that has some of the skills, but not all the skills, and then train that person to your specifications. And then what we do to help that business offset that extraordinary cost of providing that training is we'll reimburse a percentage of the wage. In Lane County, we reimburse 50% of the wage up to 16 weeks. Across other jurisdictions in other parts of the nation, that reimbursement might be different. Under the law, and I'm not going to get too far into the weeds, but under the law, depending on the size of business, that reimbursement could go up to 75%. So if you're a business and you're working in Maine, you might see a different reimbursement rate than you're going to see here in Oregon or in Lane County. But we do stick to 50% of the wage. We do that mostly because we need to stretch the dollars just as far as we can stretch them to help as many businesses and people as we possibly can. The other really nice thing about OJT for the business customer is while it is training and you might start out with losing some productivity because you're taking a highly trained individual, usually a supervisor, out of being really productive to train this individual, and you have an employee who's not, really up to speed yet. But over time, that productivity increases. And it doesn't really take very long. Usually within a matter of weeks, you see that productivity go up. So there's a benefit there. And then in a lot of cases, we find that it's very motivational. The employee feels good about learning skills that they would never have the opportunity to learn. And a supervisor feels good about being able to help someone, enable someone to learn and grow, that kind of outcome, that achievement, level makes everyone feel great about what they're doing. So there's some positives in that respect that, both psychological and economical. And then for job seekers, on the reverse side of the benefit to employers to be able to hire someone who might not have all the skills they need in a tight labor market, for job seekers, the benefit is that they're going to get an opportunity for employment that they probably never ever get. If they don't have the specific skills that a job needs, usually that door closes to them. And this way, job seekers can get in. And not only can they get in and start doing a job that maybe they would never have been able to access in the past, but it can often put them on a career pathway that they may never have thought that was available to them in the past. So it's really great in that respect. And then also, because on-the-job training is an earn and learn model, it provides some stability for that job seeker. Instead of someone having to go to school in a classroom and figure out how they're going to support themselves while they're learning, they're on the job, they're earning wages, and they're learning at the same time. So it gives some economic stability to the household. And then they are actually learning these skills that the business needs. And then the other really nice thing, and this is a benefit to both the business and the trainee, is that as they're learning, they can get immediate feedback on their job performance. Corrections can be made in real time. They're not picking up bad habits, from other learning experiences. They're picking up the good habits that business really wants them to have. In Lane County, there are some parameters that we have around our program. I already mentioned that our primary funding source is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. There are other funding sources that we use for on-the-job training. We get some money from the state. And, like everything, this money comes with strings attached. So both the employer and the employee have to be eligible to receive our funding. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a second. For us in Lane County, our on-the-job training plans are normally developed for up to about a 16-week period. We can do shorter, and we could do longer if we had to, but we find that 16 weeks is actually an adequate amount of time to really get through about 5 significant learning goals for that employee to learn their job and be productive for the business. And then we actually set a threshold on wages. We want the employer or the employee, to earn a family sustaining wage. And we look to wages above minimum wage. So for Lane County, we want the employee to be paid $15 an hour if the employer pays benefits, has employer-sponsored benefits. If the employer does not have employer-sponsored benefits and the employee has to go out on the market to get their own benefits, then we want that wage to be at least $17 an hour so that the employee can afford to go out on the market to purchase their benefits. And as I already stated, we will reimburse up to 50% of the wage during the training period. And up to a maximum of $3,500. So that is a significant contribution to the business when you think about what it costs you to do training and how we help pay for that cost. For eligibility for the business, the big piece for us is that business can't have had any layoffs in the last 120 days. And if they did, all of the employees that were laid off have to have been recalled to work. Or if an employee is recalled to work and they don't come back because they moved on, the employer has to be able to demonstrate that. We have times when a company will relocate from other states. And again, if a company is relocating and it's within that 120-day period and they had layoffs, that occurred because of the relocation, we can't work with them. You know, those employees have to have been recalled to work, moved with the company or something like that. But if anyone has been impacted from that move, then there's a detriment to the labor force in that area. Companies have to have adequate insurance and payroll systems, and they have to have the capacity to train the people that they're hiring. So what we've stated is for capacity, if you're a very, very small business with 5 employees or less, you can't have more than 1 trainee. If you're a larger business and you have more than 25 employees, then you can't be training more than 50% of your workforce, you know, so, which is a lot. If you have 25 employees, you know, 50% of your workforce being in training is a significant number of people. Then the other thing that we ask businesses to do and to commit to is to work with us and work with our team to participate in regular progress reporting. This is a program where we really do have to make sure that people are getting the training that was committed to, they're building their skills. Sorry, and we're documenting that. Sorry, 1 second, please. This happens to me every time I start talking too much. I start coughing. So we do look for that participation. All of our work is done in collaboration. Like Nicole does a lot of work with our businesses to help get the word out, expand OJT opportunities. And then we have a team of workers at the WorkSource Center, who's the OJT team, and there is someone who is assigned to the business to help the business who is on that OJT team. So we offer tons and tons of support around this program. For eligibility for the worker, for the employee, the trainee, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds, but basic eligibility is they do have to be an adult over the age of 18 for this particular program. They have to have the right to work in the United States. We look at people who may be dislocated workers, and that's someone who was laid off from their last job they were eligible for, they exhausted their unemployment insurance benefits. It also could be someone who's been a displaced homemaker, and by that we mean that someone who was in a household that was supported by another wage earner, and that the wage from that earner is no longer available to that household or to that person. And then they really need to be in need of skills training, and it needs to be an occupation or a career choice that is right for that person. So in working with the staff at the WorkSource Center, we'll do some assessment screening to make sure that this is a good fit in terms of the occupation and career choice for that person. And again, we're working with the staff in collaboration with the staff at that point between the staff and the employer. Because we look at the employer as being primary business, we do want to make sure that we're moving really quick and getting people through that screening process that the employer wants to hire. But we also want to safeguard that employer by screening for a fit, you know, for that employer. There have been times when we have found that the employer has referred someone for OJT that they want to hire, and that person hasn't stuck, you know, with that job because they just weren't the right fit for that job. So this gives an added benefit to the employer by having us do this kind of screening. For progress reporting, what we do is we look to verify that the person started working on their start date. So that's really important. You know, people flake. We might, you know, put people through everything's good to go. And, you know, then people just don't show up on the start date of their employment. So we work with the business, the team, the dedicated staff will call that business just to verify that. We look for wage verification at 30 days of employment. just to make sure that the person is getting the wage that was agreed to in the training plan. And then progress reporting happens at 30 days of training at midpoint, so partway through the training, and then at completion of training. What's really important is that midpoint of training and the 30 days of training, if there are any concerns, any issues going on with the trainee and their ability to learn the goals that were set, we need to be able to work with you and step in to help correct whatever that might be. Sometimes what happens is you get this super bright person and they move through the initial training goals super fast, and they might be done way faster than we had anticipated. Then the employer might say, I want to add, 2 or 3 learning goals because this person's learned so fast and so well. We can certainly do that. There are other times when people are struggling with some things. And a lot of times it's around technical things, about doing the job. And when people are struggling to get those final training goals learned, we could step in and we could extend the plan to help people accomplish what they set out to accomplish. And then at completion of training, we're just verifying at that point in time that all the training goals are met and that everyone's happy with this person. And we do expect the business to retain that person in their employment. And at that point in time, they would move to unsubsidized wages. We do also actively case manage the participants during this process. So those progress reports are the formal times that we are looking to see how people are doing. Informally, there should be ongoing conversations between the case manager at the WorkSource Center, who is also the person supporting the business, and the trainee, just to make sure everything's going well. Those conversations can also happen informally with the business or informally with the supervisor of that business. But those conversations should happen because there are just things that come up in between the formal process. I already mentioned that we will reimburse 50% up to a maximum of $3,500. The payment to the business in Lane County is made at the completion of the OJT training plan. We can modify that locally if we need to. If there is a small business, maybe that's struggling, that needs payment, let's say at midpoint of training, rather than waiting for completion of training. But it's not normal. And normally businesses don't want to be bothered with additional paperwork, so it really works for our businesses in Lane County to get paid the full amount at the completion of training. And so that happens when you're working with the staff and we have the final progress report done, everyone signed off saying, yep, I learned all these goals. We get a wage record from the business so that we can verify wages paid. And then we have an invoice, and the staff are great. The staff really do all the work for the business. They get this invoice prepared, they get all the forms prepared, and all the business has to do really is verify and provide the wage record. And then the staff will process those documents for payment, and the check is mailed to the business for that $3,500. I don't think there's much more around that for payment. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm forgetting to say something, but if it comes to me during this time we have together, I'll pipe up. So that's the crux of it. That's the crux of the OJT program. I kind of went through it really fast. I just wanted to give the highlights, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Myself, Nicole, and our team at the WorkSource Center are here for you to help guide this through, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Cindy. That was a fantastic overview. It's a great way for people to get an idea of the program and see how it works and sort of all the expectations along the road. And I'm excited for Amy to share her story. I've known Amy for a number of years and watched her business grow from back in the days when you were printing out of your garage, and I'd go up there and order t-shirts from you. So it's exciting to see your business grow and expand. And I'm so excited that you had an OJT placement at your business, and excited to hear about how that went for you.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Thanks for having me. I found out about the program a few months ago when we were in the process of hiring somebody. And so, Nicole, you reached out to me, not even knowing that, but it was just perfect timing. And so that all came together, and we hired, well, I guess I should back up. I own a screen printing business. So we hired a screen printer. It's a skill that's not that easy to come by, but you can train people. So we have 10 employees here, and we're pretty, it's pretty tight. So like Cindy was saying, when our manager needs to stop what he's doing and train a new person, that does take a lot of time, and it slows down production. So we're printing, a couple thousand t-shirts a week. And so we expect that kind of slow down when we have a new person to train. It's just going to take a little longer to teach somebody, and then there's going to be more mistakes. And, so finding this program was just a big relief, knowing that some of that pressure was going to come off for that period of time to train. Because I have almost never hired somebody that knows how to screen print. So they're not that easy to come by. And also each shop is so unique and different that you kind of do want somebody fresh that really wants to learn and, can learn your system. So we've always really believed in that. We hire people that we think are hard workers and good fit for our team. And then we worry about the skill of screen printing later, and that's worked out. It is hard labor. We do everything manually. So there's that piece, which sometimes is hard to predict because somebody doesn't really know if they can stand on their feet and pull a squeegee for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and until they actually do it. And then I guess the second part too is that it is a good career path. I mean, people can make a lot of money and travel all over the country and all over the world and do screen printing. So it's a desirable skill to have for sure, but you don't go to college for it. You pretty much have to apprentice or work in a print shop in order to gain those skills. So it's, a program like this is like the perfect fit for us. Do you guys have any questions for me?
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to open it up to the audience if there are questions that folks have for either Cindy or Amy or myself. Things that you're wondering about the program, or about how it can be used, or how to learn more information, or whatever it may be, feel free to either type in the chat or unmute yourself and chime in. It's a pretty small group, so happy to have a conversation going with folks.
I can add one more thing while we're waiting for questions. We do have like a training program. I mean, we have a plan when we hire new people, and we have some goals, but the 5 goals that the OJT program gives you kind of gave us a reason to come up with a few more things actually. So we do embroidery here and heat press, and we thought, well, since we have the opportunity and since we're being focused on learning new skills, like let's just get this done too, so that we have lots of people here who can do lots of different things and move around when they're on vacation or somebody's sick or something like that. So that was sort of a nice addition to just our regular training program.
Yeah, that's great feedback to hear too, that had you refocus your training program. There's a question for you, Amy, in the chat. What would you say to other small business owners who are considering using the OJT program?
Yeah, I would say definitely reach out and see if you're eligible. I mean, so the whole process was pretty simple and totally worth it. So we worked with Jennifer at the program, and she was very helpful and kind of got us all set and really easy to talk to and easy to work with. And, you know, it can be maybe a little intimidating for the person that's being trained, because it's like, you know, are you being evaluated on if you're doing the job very good or not? And so it didn't feel like that at all. You know, it's like a very informal, like, you know, where are you at on a scale of 1 to 3 with each of these 5 skills. And so we were able to do the progress reports really easily. And I think small businesses like mine don't always know about these programs. And so, I mean, I would definitely use it again in the future, but I think sometimes you don't realize that there's opportunities out there and small businesses need help. And so I would really recommend it for small business.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And as a former small business owner myself, I also didn't know about the program prior to being in the role that I'm in now. And so it's fantastic to get to share that out with small businesses who can really be impacted by, you know, $3,500 to help offset the cost of training new hires is huge when you have a small staff. And so it's fantastic. That's a resource. I'm excited to share that out with more people. And as all of us learn about it, we could share it with more people, and hopefully it snowballs and more folks get to know about it and can benefit from it. Question for you, Cindy. Can this program be used for part-time or stipend staff training programs? Thank you, Heather, for the question.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So stipends, the answer would be no, because this is a hire first program. So the person really does need to be earning wages. They need to be an employee, a regular employee of the company. For part-time in Lane County, our policy is that it has to be full-time work. However, big however, is we have concerns for our rural areas. Primarily right now, we're worried about Florence and the small businesses in Florence that are struggling to stay open. OJT is a great what we call layoff aversion strategy for businesses. And if we can use our OJT program to help a business in our rural communities stay open, even if it's a part-time employee, we're more than happy to do that. Along those lines, and I just sent a confirmation email to the supervisor at the WorkSource Center about this morning to help Florence businesses. We're also willing to lower the threshold on wage if it will be of benefit to that business, because we are that concerned about our small businesses in Florence. You know, when we hear of a business having to close because they don't have the workforce that they need, that's just not acceptable to us. And if we can use our funding and our programs in any way to help with that, we are happy to do so. But they do have to be employees. They do have to be paid a wage. It's not a stipend program. For programs that are looking for like interns, maybe paying a stipend, there are other opportunities we may be able to explore. We have work experience programs where we may be able to do a stipend with a work experience program. That's primarily for our youth, young adult programs. So there's other things that we could explore with that business that we should certainly talk about and bring in other experts like folks from Connected Lane County who could talk about that.
And Cindy, I have a question. We used the program because we had just hired a new person. But if down the line, we were going to move somebody from, say, screen printing to embroidery, which, you know, if that involves more training in a totally different skill, is that another opportunity to use the program?
It is. And what we really look for incumbent worker or employed worker training, we look for progress. So what we'd like to see, and this happens not a lot, but it happens where in a case like that, where you're going to move someone up, it's a higher skill, they're going to pay a higher wage for that higher skill. And then we ask you to backfill. If that creates another position in your company because of moving that person up, maybe because you lost someone or because it increases your ability to do business, you know, increases your revenue, then could we backfill with somebody else to that position that was vacated? But absolutely, we can pay to move people up and to do OJTs for employed workers, incumbent workers.
Another question for you, Cindy. Are there accommodations for people who are unable to work full time?
I don't know what, I mean, we'd have to explore what that means for accommodations. We do really look for full-time employment outside of the rural areas. You know, for urban areas, we really look at full-time employment. For the rural areas, like I just said, you know, as a service to the business, we would accommodate part-time. But in terms of other accommodations, we'd have to explore what that means.
Another question here too from Adam. He says, we have an opportunity to hire some interns from a program at LCC and another from OSU. Some intern positions are paid. Can the OJT program help with the cost of bringing in these interns? We hire interns if they're a good fit.
Only if they're going to be hired as a regularly situated employee with the intent to retain them after the training is completed. So typically interns aren't hired as regularly situated employees. So, but that's part of our federal rules too. OJT is a business or is a training where the business trains the person and retains the person.
Yeah, I have to say some of the great things about the OJT program that I see as, again, a former business owner, is that these are, you know, new hires that you want that are a good fit for your company culture, for your business. And so it's not having to pick from, say, a list of people. It's the person that you really want to hire because they're a good fit for you, and then providing them the training that you need, exactly what you need for your business. It's not having to use some prepackaged training that's provided. It is exactly what you need for your business. So if you know you have a food and beverage company and you need to have somebody who's trained in FDA regulations, and that's really specific for your industry, this can help to offset the cost of that, because it's almost impossible to find somebody who's had that experience in the past. And so having that offset to be able to train somebody up to have those skills, and then that employee carries those skills with them for the rest of their lives. So whether they continue with you for, you know, decades to come, or after a few years they move into a new position, they can take those skills with them. So it's super valuable for our community on both an employer and employee side. It's such a great program in that way that it helps both sides and benefits both of them. So it's so exciting always to share this program out, because I feel like it's such a huge benefit on both sides that it's a win-win all around, and it's not often you find things like that. So I think that's what's so great about getting to share this with our community. And unfortunately, Lisa Bruckner couldn't be with us today, and she's with Marshall's Heating and Cooling, but she had also placed OJTs at Concentric Sky. So part of why I wanted Lisa to be here today is that diversity of businesses that have used the OJT program. And I think it's so important too for folks to see that, you know, from Amy having Threadbare Print House and, you know, having somebody trained in screen printing, to Lisa being at Concentric Sky, a tech business, and having OJT for that, and being at Marshall's and having OJT for heating and cooling technicians and the training that goes into that. They're very different types of businesses with very different types of training, and OJT can be applied to all those. So it's exciting to see the program used that way.
Yep, and they're a good example of an employer who has done multiple OJTs through our program. They've really benefited, and as have we, you know, especially on Marshall's, you know, because it's so hard for people to get those skills. Like Amy, you were saying about screen printing, you're not going to go to school to learn how to get those skills. And for plumbing, you're going to go to school for a long time, you know, before you can get some of those skills. And same with, you know, HVAC and, you know, those kinds of things. And Marshall's has been a great partner in that respect, and taken on multiple people. We have food and beverage companies. Yogi Tea is one that has done a lot of on-the-job training, you know, for our participants. And it's just, you know, it just is such a win-win. And I can't emphasize it enough in a tight labor market like we have right now, where things are just so different than normal. It just becomes such a valuable tool for businesses.
We have another question, and it says from Heather, how many job seekers are waiting for placements right now?
We don't have a list of job seekers waiting for placements. We actually, we do it's an interesting program in Lane County, and it does not work this way everywhere. But what we do in Lane County is, because it's the business that's our primary customer, businesses are actually recruiting their own people, and they're referring those folks to the WorkSource Center to make sure that they're eligible to participate in the OJT program. The flip side of that is having customers that we've already screened for eligibility, that we are then trying to seek opportunities for training. And it can happen, but we don't really do a reverse that way. We really look at it from serving the business primarily. That's our goal. And we do on really heavy years, we'll do over 100 on the job trainings with businesses in the year. On slower years, it might be around 60, you know, and anywhere in between, and also depending on the funding that we get. But for us, we don't keep a bank of job seekers looking for opportunities. We just don't do it that way. For our regular job seekers through the WorkSource Center, we're just helping them to navigate job search through regular job search channels, making sure they have their job search portfolios and their skills in place. And if an opportunity came up, we would match them to that opportunity, but we don't actually manage the program that way. But it's a great question, Heather.
Yeah, that is a great question, Heather. Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it is we, share this program out with businesses. If businesses are like, oh yeah, this sounds like it would be a good fit, we're going to hire on this person for this position that I think would be a good fit for the OJT program, then we refer them to the OJT specialists who then meet with the business. So it's not like there's a pool of folks waiting. It's more when a business is hiring for a position where they're going to have to do additional training that they feel like OJT is a good fit for, then they connect with the OJT program to see if they qualify. So hopefully that answers the question. And I think that's all the questions we've had, unless anybody else has any more questions.
I just want to state real quick that we do have Nicole, and we have a team of folks at the WorkSource Center who work collaboratively to support the businesses and the job seekers through this program. And without them, I mean, we wouldn't have a program. So Nicole, I want to thank you for putting this together and recognize the staff that also do this work.
Thank you. And thank you both so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and Cindy for putting together that great slideshow to give an overview to folks that maybe haven't heard of this program before. And like myself, when they think of on-the-job training, they think of maybe more skilled labor positions, rather than the fact that the OJT program is a grant program that helps to offset the cost of training new hires across all sectors. So whether you're in tech or food and beverage or screen printing, or a heating and air conditioning company, it can be applied for all those different types of positions. So it's an incredible program. Hopefully everyone can share it out with their networks after they've heard more about it today. And thank you so much, Amy, for taking time out of your day to share your experience of having a recent OJT, and excited about your continued growth for your business. It's always great to see small businesses being successful in our community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Nicole. Nice to meet you, Cindy.
Nice to meet you too. I'm glad you had a great experience with us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
And thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. This was recorded, so again, it'll be up on the Chamber website shortly, and shared out on our Onward channels as well. So if you know somebody who you think, hey, you should look at this program, this has been recorded, so you can let them know that they can check it out, learn more about it, and feel free to get in contact with me as well, Nicole Dash at Onward. And I would be happy to answer more questions and connect with folks who are interested in the program as well. So thank you all so much for being with us today. Thanks. Have a great afternoon.